The Penguin, issue 6, Tom King writing with Steven Subic, or I don't know how to say his name, on the art. So, new arc, obviously we wrapped up the collecting of everyone, and then this takes an interesting turn where this, at least for one issue, goes into the past. This goes into kind of the start, or at least the main part of how Penguin became the crime boss Penguin, and does an interesting thing where it's very, very tied to Batman, and how Batman kind of put him in the position that we all think of him as being in the modern comics, which is the guy running the Iceberg Lounge and all that. Very, very interesting. So, what did you make of this?
So I like the story. I like what it did. I don't necessarily. So my idea of Penguin is he's part of the older families of Gotham. He's that old money. So King coming in and making him more of a self-made guy, I think that redefines Oswald as a character. I think that it's a positive. Having him tied so much to Batman, I don't know if I like, and maybe that'll pay off down the line.
I think that just depends where it goes, like what he's got planned with that, because like I don't dislike any of the particular things in this issue by any means. I think the whole idea that Falcone was working, or sorry, Penguin was working for Falcone, had been promoted to serving drinks, but had been working as a cleaner at Falcone's place, which is the Iceberg Lounge, I might add.
Which they just keep on the lounge, right? So it ties them to it.
For quite some time, and I mean, Penguin coming up from nothing, certainly not new. Like, obviously, this whole he comes from old money in Gotham has been... That's actually more of the more modern take on Penguin,
right?
I think. Whereas this is maybe going back to something closer to what it was before, but certainly with its own spin on it. But yeah, so I think what was really neat about the opening scene is that Penguin's like, behind the bar serving this drink, and we're hearing this narration, and I kind of liked that. I couldn't tell for a while. I thought it was because of the format. Sorry.
Are you talking about the narration?
Yeah, I'm talking about the narration.
Yeah.
So I thought, because the format of the book has been always that someone else has been narrating, I still kind of assumed that was the case.
Yep.
But the narration here in the opening page, which does turn out to be from Falcone, it could have been Penguin for so long that it was almost making me like question, wait, are we switching to doing Penguin narration now that we're in a new arc? Are we dropping that? And that's kind of interesting that we are dropping it. If we are, we don't. It is actually still someone else in the scene. It's Falcone. But because he's talking as a mob boss, and because he's talking down about other people, it was like, this sounds like it could be Penguin. It wasn't until he started criticizing how Penguin looked that I went, oh, okay, it's Falcone who's talking in the narration. So I thought that was
I did that whole thing where I was like, I don't think it's Penguin, because that would break kind of the what we've been doing, but also maybe it's the detective and we're gonna get like a counter story. But then I was like, no, this is not the detective. They can't stop swearing, right? And then when it's revealed that he's stirring the drink, not receiving the drink, and it clicks, I thought that was a really nice reveal.
Yeah. I don't think I never really thought about the detective, because I think I already got that this was like a flashback story. So,
Gotcha.
Because the detective obviously is because if at hell, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've already read in the book is like sort of whatever. Anyway, the point is this very much follows where Penguin was and how he's constantly picked on. He has this. There's this old woman who takes care of some birds on a rooftop, and Penguin goes back there, and we get her narration, and she seems to be obsessed with thinking every man that comes up to the roof wants to kiss her.
Give her the old dirty kisses.
Yeah, dirty kisses is the exact phrase. That's not actually what anyone wants, but it's what she keeps thinking. But she brings up that she saw the Batman, and this gives Penguin an idea of sorts to lure Batman in and talk to him, which he basically it forms this partnership where Penguin wants to sort of tell him stuff. He wants to get one over on Falcone by feeding him information, and Batman can take out the bad guys and also pay him potentially, which we know he can do because he's Bruce Wayne.
Right.
But they make this deal, and then the middle of the issue is very much Batman's narration talking about how he's using Penguin's intel and how he's even training Penguin to ask better questions or listen for the right kinds of information. And eventually it leads to him taking down big players in Falcone's operation. We see him as Matches Malone in the bar, keeping an eye on Penguin and making sure that he's doing what he's doing. All of this was entertaining enough. It was fun seeing how all this played out. And I think ultimately when it gets down to like Batman's like, should he trust Penguin or not? Because Penguin does technically lie about a couple of things, but Batman catches him on it, particularly about who the woman is, because he says it's his mother, and Batman's like, no, she's not. And he's like, well, she's like a foster mother, and I kind of call her mum because this reason or that reason. So it's very much this play that Penguin's making to use this new, more colourful character who's in Gotham to sort of take one out on Falcone. In fact, the opening narration for Falcone at the very start of the book is him complaining that after all he's built, some idiot throwing boomerangs, as he calls them, is ruining everything. So this is very much set during Batman Year One. In fact, there's even there's a line from Batman at one point that, some of Falcone's like his brother led some men into Ace Chemicals and one of his goons fell into the vat of acid. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's just a neat little...
How this parts into the Tom King Garrett's Joker story too. Like,
it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, and the stuff with Falcone and being so basically being so spread thin because of what Oswald's doing and helping Batman. The whole motif of him constantly wanting to serve, right? So like when Bruce is pleading, you gotta let me help the mother figure, and he's like, I'm important, and Bruce is like, you're a bartender, and Oswald goes, no, I'm your bartender. I feel to me that's where the Penguin was born, right? Because that's where he starts to make these moves that are going to eventually end with him owning the Iceberg Lounge.
Well,
right?
I think
he's manipulating Batman.
The thing you're skipping over there is that when Batman says he wants to finally go after Falcone himself, Penguin tries to dodge it, and Batman's like, why are you lying? And he admits that, well, once you've got Falcone, then what am I at that point? Like, I've felt important recently helping you take all these guys out. I don't want this to end. And I think what this issue is doing is that it's really painting this foundation for why Penguin is the way he is, and why he's always so determined to be the smart one, he always lashes out, right? Yeah. Because this book starts with him being belittled, having a glass smashed in his face, and then there's literally a scene of him in the bathroom pulling little bits of glass out of his face, and you can kind of see this is where the anger largely comes from. It's this kind of stuff in his past that's made him the way he is. And he is obviously kind of manipulating Batman, but Batman's obviously getting a lot out of it. But Batman actually gives him the money to get the Iceberg Lounge. He owns the Iceberg Lounge because Bruce Wayne gave him the money. That's actually kind of a big deal.
Yeah, Bruce inadvertently created a criminal empire,
Well, yeah, kind of. It's interesting because it really calls into question the nature of who the Penguin is in Gotham now, in terms of at least of how he started, because it's this idea that the whole idea is that he would still operate the Iceberg Lounge like Falcone did, but only with the purpose that the criminals would come, they would talk, and Batman could still get intel. And obviously somewhere along the line, Penguin just straight up became a kingpin, right? He just straight up became that in that role.
And it stopped being the city. It almost matches Penguin's identity as he goes, right? Because it stops from being the seedy underground watering hole for crooks, and it becomes this big opulent casino, right? So I like thematically where that goes.
Yeah, it's like he has to make it better than what it was before because he's better than Falcone. He,
Yep.
he's going to have it be bigger and flashier and shinier and all that stuff. And at the end of the issue, is Penguin throwing the old woman off the roof, right? Because all issue, I'm like, okay, this book's been nothing but showing us how Penguin can act out violently, and it's been kind of subdued this issue because it's in the past and he's not really had the chance to yet. And then, like the whole idea of her was that this was to give Batman something noble, like in Penguin's like story, to like sort of say, well, he's doing all this to take care of this poor old woman. That's something Batman can get behind because it's like everything.
He's doing good. He's doing evil, but at the root of it, it's he wants to take care of his mom.
Yeah, like it's if she wasn't a part of the story, it's just him wanting money, and like Batman can't get on board with that necessarily.
And being power hungry and and
it's about revenge even on Falcone.
Yeah.
But she was the sob story that made it look like there was something pure at the center of it. And then at the end of the story, he's like, "You were important," and she's like, "I'm important." Like, no, I didn't say you are. I said you were important. And then pushes her off the roof. That's the final panel. It's her falling through the sky.
I'm going to be negative for a hot second. I wasn't a big fan of the art in this.
Okay,
that's it's an acquired taste type thing, and it's just not mine. Just the proportions and everything from what we've had on this book before. But this last page is some of the most masterful storytelling that I've seen, where they start off so far apart, and as he is telling her, no, you were important, it ends up with him throwing her off and then her falling through off of the roof. So it's almost like this countdown that you can just follow. And I don't know how much of that was in the script. I don't know how much of that is the artist doing this as well, but it is some, like, it got a dark laugh out of me when he said, no, you were important. Because as you're reading, your eye goes to different colors, and her, when he pushes her, it's red, and as she's falling, it's all yellow. So when you open the page, when you get to that page, that something bad has happened, but you're not sure what. And then when he drops that on her, it got a chuckle out of me, and then I felt terrible, right? Because all this lady did, despite having, whatever mental illness that she had, because she used to be a ballerina, right? She hit hard times, and then she was trying to help out all of these kids that were coming up in Gotham. And her, basically her only sin was trusting this guy. And it got her thrown off a roof, she's thrown off the roof by a bird that can't fly. I don't know what else is irony.
If she even does trust him. I don't know.
True.
If she, it almost feels like he's just taking advantage of her condition by showing up, and she doesn't really.
True.
She can't really put up a fight. It's I think the art is very different from before. I think I'm not necessarily a fan of Penguin's face in a lot of it. I do like some of the other characters. I like how Falcone looks in the shadows. I like how Batman looks. Like, there's a lot of it I do really like, and I think what you were getting at with the final page is that even if you're not in love with how he draws Penguin's face, the sequencing in the art, the way it moves from panel to panel is exceptionally good still. So maybe it's not quite to the same taste as the art from before, but it doesn't feel like, this feels very different than all of a sudden we've got like Gilliam March as the artist. This is more like, no, this is still a high quality artist. It's just not one that maybe everyone's going to vibe with as much as the previous.
Because that's the thing I like the least about it, but I still really like this issue. It's just, but I could also rationalize that this is him drawing Penguin in as the most grotesque way possible. It's kind of showing his inner self. You can get away with that if you want. Because
Falcone and the other criminals are basically all mocking him for being like so ugly. Like, that's kind of what they say as they're talking about him. It's all a thing. No, I think this was a really interesting issue. It's not what I was expecting necessarily after the end of that last arc. I'm actually a little confused as to what the next story is going to be, because I thought, maybe this is just like a one-issue fill-in before we get back to continuing the present-day stuff, just to give the artist like an issue off, and that makes sense. But it does say part 1, like when you on the title page.
Yeah.
So I'm not
scroll down.
It makes me wonder if we're going to actually get like the next stage of Penguin's career, and there's going to be like 4 or 5 issues here going through his rise to modern day Penguin before the fall, before the whole fake murder thing.
Yeah, so the next issue is by Subic. And then...
I suspect you're going to get a full arc out of him then.
Nope, just the 2, because then issue 8 is back to De La Torre.
Okay, so it is a fill-in there. It's just a 2-part fill-in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, so it just looked
I suspect, if I was to guess then, I'd suspect that the next issue will be kind of his rise to being the Kingpin. Now that he's got the lounge.
Yep. To where he was before he, gave it all up, right? When what was it, that Batman killed him? That's what set off kill the...
Well, I don't know if it'll go that far. I could see it just going to the point where Batman realizes that Penguin's not just working for him anymore, that he's where he realizes that Penguin's actually a villain in the city.
No, that could be, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I could see that being...
We're not just going to speed run his career in Gotham. So
but basically I'd say these 2 issues are like Penguin Year 1, if you want to call them that.
That's about right.
I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to getting back to him coming back to the city with his squad that he's built, because that was obviously what the entire first arc was building up. I do this as an interesting little 2-parter to throw in, though, because seeing some of his motivations and seeing how he was treated and how determined he is to take over and how he's done it, like this, because this feels like a very early version of what we've seen in some of these other issues, right? Where he's very unassuming, and the others don't realize they're being outplayed. And in this case, including Batman even. Yeah. So, whereas that's something the Batman won't fall for again, because once Penguin's tricked him once, Batman ain't going to easily fall for it a second time.
True. But I wonder if that's what's going to play off as, remember in the first issue, we get that flash forward almost of them in the crash bat plane.
Yeah, the very, very start of the...
Right. And I'm wondering if this plays in, that Bruce remembers... I don't know, I trusted him once before. Like, obviously I can't let him die.
I mean, I think it already plays in, just in the sense that we finally got like some of him and Batman interacting, because like up until this issue, that one scene with them in the Batwing was the only time we've seen them together this entire thing. So it was just kind of nice to be reminded of like, oh yeah, this is building up to them being involved in something together again. Yeah. Very curious. So. We'll see. If I was to guess, I would say that Penguin is going to offer help to Batman to take someone down, and obviously Batman's going to be skeptical based on this, because, I mean, Batman's probably going to figure out who killed the old woman. Yeah.
I mean, there's kind of one prime suspect, right? Yeah. They're kind of the only person that would go visit her. It's me. I mean, Oswald made that very clear, right? That he's one of the only people that remembers her. So... Yeah. It
never even occurred to me, because you said this a little bit ago, but the almost the dark irony of her being pushed off the building by a flightless bird of the Penguin, when she was going on earlier about the pigeons not being great flyers. Right. It's quite funny.
Yeah. King has that way, man. He's got a wit to his writing. I mean, but yeah, it all comes together.
Yeah. So very good. Yeah. Honestly, some of my favorite art might be that page. There's like 3 pages in when he's in the bathroom and he's just in silhouette as the drunk guy is just mumbling in his narration about, it's like about this not happening again, and just basically this like how cold and calculated Penguin's clearly thinking about things as this guy's just stumbling around. I don't know. It just painted a picture. And I do like the colouring quite a bit as well. Yeah. Across the
coloring's pretty spot on. Yeah. With the way that it goes when like Batman shows up and it's this drab, like
muted brown blues and stuff.
Yeah. But everything in the Iceberg Lounge is the dingy yellow, and stuff. And then that I mean, for me that culminates on the final page, right, where we get the red, and the yellow. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. So. What are you giving Penguin issue 6?
I'm going to give this a 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's not the best issue of the book, but I think it's doing some interesting things and really fleshing out this character.